You look like a Smurf here, just going around and all this stuff. Now listen,
Mr. Chairman, you have.
I'm going to tell you something.
Hold on. If we're not on time, we
spew
can
disinformation.
You have gone on TV and said the president did something illegal. You're doing stuff with your brother. The American people have the same questions. Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? There's a different rule for the president. There's a different rule for you. Why should they believe what you're saying, Mr. Chairman? Why?
Now, I know none of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will admit to being racist, and I don't think they are. But when you look at the rhetoric and you hear the talking points and look at the legislation that's put forward, what are we to say?
In many of these classes, African culture is presented,
Mr. Chairman,
not as
I demand
inferior.
the gentlelady's words be taken down. She just called the witness a white supremacist.
No, I referred to the words, not to the person, not to him. The words.
I would like a parliamentary
did
inquiry
not.
into having
No,
the woman's words taken down.
According to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and its over 57,000 members, abortion is an essential component of women's health care. Abortion is health care. When we criminalize, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I would like the ability to answer my question line. When we criminalize health care, undermine a patient's ability, thank you very much.
Please, we'll have order.
Let's be clear. There is a crisis right now, but it's not because the southern border is open or because immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, which the Republicans and their racist cult leader, Donald Trump, want you to believe. The real crisis is one of, no, it is, he is not a current president.
The gentlelady will suspend until the motion is dealt with.
What were the offending words?
Would Mr. Cloud state the words?
Mr. Cloud, will you state the words?
She mentioned that Republicans were racist.
I didn't say that. I said racist cult leader Donald Trump, who is not a current president, so it is not engaging in personality.
The Republican members and their...
No, she's clarifying she's not referring to Republicans in general. She was referring to one individual who is not protected by the rules.
Absolutely. The words say, which the Republicans and their racist cult leader, Donald Trump.
Mr. Ranking Member, I don't think that you're the one to rule on this. I think the chair.
Here,
No, I was stating just the rule.
Let's hold for just a moment. The rules apply only to when you're engaging in personalities of specific members, so the comments are in order. The gentlelady can continue.
You know, when my Republican colleagues cozy up to neo-Nazis and the Proud Boys and white supremacist groups.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I find that offensive that the gentleman would make a broad statement like that. And I think that he should back that up with any individual, but not a broad group. That would be inappropriate for me and untrue.
Don't worry, I'm getting to the part you'll like.
Well, I don't. Okay. Perhaps you are. I find it offensive that you have used this forum.
Sure, no problem. Donald Trump had dinner with a Holocaust denier at his house. You want more facts?
Then use that, sir.
Sure, no problem.
If anyone's wondering why there's vaccine hesitancy, look no further than the VAERS reporting system, because many of these people's stories were taken off of social media and censored. There's been serious reports of changes in women's menstrual cycle and hemorrhages. Here's 2020 again. That's the same year that emergency use was given for the COVID-19 vaccine. Reports of miscarriage. Ms. Williams, you were right again. Miscarriages increased drastically, but yet no one seems to want to listen to these women.
The comments we just heard, I think, speak to a lot of the other comments that we've been hearing in these hearings, and that is that there is a complete dismantling of the importance of what vaccinations actually have done in this country and how many lives they've actually saved. Vaccines save lives. The pandemic cost us 1.3+ million Americans. It's the single largest, most devastating loss of life event that we have had in the modern era.
Mr. Chairman.
It's the most significant loss of life we've had in the modern era.
Ms. Rick, please pause for a second.
I'd like to make a point of order and ask the members to be reminded of the rules of decorum, Mr. Chairman.
What rules are those?
The gentleman from California will suspend.
I understand what you'd like to do, but I'm saying that in fairness, we have debated these nominees twice, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you're denying us an opportunity to speak on a nominee.
Man. I mean,
third time, no.
Okay, do this.
We don't have a right to speak under the rules?
Under the third time, I'd say no.
So you're just going to make it up?
So, yeah.
I'd like to
There's going to be a lot of
I'd
consequences
like
coming
to
here.
speak too, Mr.
You're going to have a lot of consequences coming if you go down this road.
You better
I've
believe
cautioned
it.
you. I've cautioned a lot of you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Listen to me. I've cautioned a lot of you.
Mr. Chairman, who has not been allowed to speak on that nominee?
Mr. Chairman, you just destroyed
Yeah.
one of the most important committees in the United States Senate.
I would like to speak in opposition to this amendment for several reasons. Number one, since New York City has been mentioned multiple times, and since my background is as an educator in New York City schools, I just want to highlight for everyone in the audience and my colleagues across the aisle that New York City is what we consider a Title I district. It's a school system that cannot survive without the Title I funds that come from the federal government. The reason why the federal government had to step in, I believe, in 1965 to provide Title I resources to lower income communities is because of redlining that was allowed by the federal government in past legislation, which led to the underfunding, the chronic underfunding of schools simply based on race. If you were Black or Latino in a particular community, your schools were underfunded, while schools in white suburban communities that had access to federal funds to buy housing, those schools received additional funding. So now this amendment seeks to double down on prior racist policy by implementing present-day racist policies in targeting of Title I school districts. I also want to take exception to the term invasion as we describe what's happening here with immigrants, migrants coming to our country seeking asylum. There's a long history of that word invasion being used to describe migrants, particularly from Latino countries, coming into our country by white supremacists in their fear-mongering around the arrival of immigrants in our country. So I take incredible exception to that word invasion. We are not being invaded. People are coming here to seek asylum, as is the history of the United States. Much of this anti-immigrant rhetoric and policy is aligned to something called the Great Replacement Theory, which was condemned by this Congress in last Congress, and I am proud to be the author of that resolution. The Great Replacement Theory states that the white race is under attack by blacks, Jews, and immigrants, and we must do something about it. And many of the mass shooters in our country have identified the Great Replacement Theory as being the motivating factor to their mass shooting, including the Buffalo mass shooting in upstate New York. So the hateful, divisive rhetoric is in the resolution. The hateful, divisive rhetoric is a part of one of the amendments. The hateful, divisive rhetoric is historical as per redlining, and the anti-immigrant sentiment is directly connected to the Great Replacement Theory.
I want to remind the gentleman that you cannot engage in characterizing the other members' positions or calling their position, engaging in personality characterizations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just very frustrating because it seems like the legislation itself engages in personalities when it refers to a group of people that is derogatory. So if the legislation is doing it, and we're using words on the other side of the aisle like invasion, as if it's an army coming to our country, is that not personalities? Thank you, and I yield back.
St. Louis and I are here today to have a serious discussion about what energy security looks like for people, not corporations. This hearing is not that discussion. If House Republicans actually cared about preventing an energy and economic crisis from happening, they would commit to investing in renewable energy. My Republican colleagues have unironically invited for-profit think tank and oil titans whose expertise is in maximizing profits. especially at the expense of our Black, our brown, and our indigenous neighbors' health, safety, and well-being. One of these so-called energy experts is a philosopher who has previously espoused white supremacist views. For instance, in his 2000 college newspaper, he wrote, quote, "The African and American Studies Department has 23 classes. In many of these classes, African culture is presented
Mr. Chairman,
not as
I demand the
inferior."
gentlelady's words be taken down. She just called the witness a white supremacist.
No, I referred to the words, not to the person, not to him, the words.
The gentlelady is referring to the witness's statement and referred
The
to him
words?
as a white supremacist. I would like a
I
parliamentary
did
inquiry
not.
into
The
having
chair-
the
no, excuse
woman's
me.
I did
words
not.
taken down.
The chair recognizes Congresswoman Boebert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like a parliamentary inquiry into taking down the gentlelady's words, the ranking member's words, for insinuating that our witness made white supremacist statements using his words.
Okay. Okay. The chair cannot take down words that are directed toward a witness only to other members. Ranking Member Bush.
As I was saying, the African and African American Studies Department, this is the quote, has 23 classes. In many of these classes, African culture is presented not as inferior to Western culture, but as on equal footing with it. In other departments, the same is done with Latin American, Indian, and American Indian culture, end quote. When confronted about these views over 2 decades later, rather than disavow them, he doubled down on this narrative saying, quote, "It has nothing to do with skin color. I was arguing that those cultures overall are inferior to Western culture." We are not inferior to any culture, speaking as a descendant of one of those cultures. This is the witness the Republicans invited to discuss issues of energy security. He came here to promote fossil fuels, which we know are disproportionately harming and killing Black and brown people. Last week, I joined Ranking Member Raskin and all of my Democratic oversight colleagues in calling on oversight Republicans to denounce white nationalism and denounce white supremacy in all its forms. Not one single Republican joined us. So I ask again today, will my Republican colleagues condemn white supremacy and work with us to ensure this committee engages in advancing good and reducing harm rather than perpetuating it? That is respect. Our committee needs to be focused on actions that will help people and prevent financial hurt and pain. Whether we deploy the SPR or we don't, the instability of our energy system will continue if we are reliant on oil. Our committees need safe, reliable, renewable energy, and more investments in public transit. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How are you doing today?
Great.
It's
Thank
good.
you.
You know, my Republican colleagues are so concerned about budgets. You know, meanwhile, they can't keep the government open without Democrats, right? You know, they're so concerned about all of these things, but look what they've done the last, 11 months in power, just utter and complete chaos. And the one thing they want to talk to you about today is this FBI building. Well, I wonder who has texted them and emailed them to talk about the FBI building. And the whole thing, that's it, you're here, about this FBI building. I mean, could that be that Donald Trump is telling them to talk about this FBI building because he's just so mad at the Department of Justice? I mean, it's so transparent. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, we have a war in Afghanistan, a war in Israel. We can't get Israel foreign aid because the speaker decided to politicize it. But they want to talk about furniture. Oh, that is definitely on the American people's mind, right? Right there with gas stoves and ceiling fans, other hearings we've had in this committee. The chairman mentioned something. Actually, he said that the Biden administration can't have it both ways. And I agree with that, Mr. Chairman, which is why I'm happy to yield you some of my time today, Mr. Chairman, because I think you owe it to the American people to explain why you've gone on Fox News and told people that while the president was out of office, he had a loan with his brother, and in a way they were evading taxes. It has come out in the public that you also do business with your brother with potential loans. And so since you have framed that and manipulated that with the American people, that Joe Biden did something wrong when he wasn't in office, I just would like to know if you would like to use some of my time.
I would love it.
Okay.
You retweeted that story. Completely false. I've never loaned my brother 1 penny. My father, who was a dentist, had some farmland. He died, and my brother couldn't afford, he wanted to sell it, but he wanted to keep it in the family, so I bought it from my brother. That story that you tweeted also said I had a shell company. That is, you can come to Monroe County and look at all the land that is titled in that LLC. I think that the problem is, you know, the White House tried to get CNN to write that story. They went around and investigated all this that Ian Sams is trying to tell people that only dumb, financially illiterate people pick up on, and said that it was a shell company because it was an LLC. They're so financially illiterate that you think because something says LLC, it's a shell company. This company, which I financially disclose, has properties, okay? It manages over 1,000 acres of land for hunting purposes. It owns different properties. I'm one of the largest landowners in my home area, okay? I went to the bank and I borrowed money and I bought that land. I didn't get wires from Romania, China. My family doesn't get wires, okay? Never loaned my brother money. Don't have an LLC. But you and Goldman, who is Mr. Trust Fund, continue to try to
reclaiming my time.
No, I'm not going to give you your time back. We can stop the clock.
You go on Fox News and say loans and deals are a way to evade taxes. We don't know that's what you're doing or not. We don't know. We have no idea. We're supposed to take your word for it. But when the president
you've
says
already
something,
been proven a liar,
the
Mr. Moskowitz.
What's that?
You've already been proven a liar.
Who's proven me a liar? You?
Yes.
Your word means nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Go to my hometown. There's a camera crew there today, an opposition research crew there today.
Mr. Chairman, this seems to have gotten under your skin.
I'll pay for your ticket.
I think the American people have lots of questions, Mr. Chairman, and perhaps you should sit maybe for a deposition.
I will be happy. I will sit with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, and we can go over our LLC.
That'll be great. I'll make sure the ranking member is happy that you'll sit at a table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a point of order that we should return to regular order for the benefit of the other members.
The ranking member makes a good point.
I'll reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman. I'll wrap it up quickly. All I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is you may have done nothing wrong. No,
but you tweeted that I did.
I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. There's a story out there, right? Because we believe everything in the media, like when you go on Fox News and say things and everyone says that they're true with innuendos and ifs and maybe, the Biden family, the crime family, all this nonsense. But when it happens to you, it's fake news. And what I'm saying is there should be the same. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. There should be the same standard. You said at the beginning of this hearing, the Biden administration can't have it both ways. Neither can you, Mr. Chairman. I yield my time back. Thank you. When my Republican colleagues support a president of the United States who's having dinner with a Holocaust denier at his house and they remain silent, silence is complicity. When there are Nazis,
Mr. Sessions.
I would like my time
Mr.
back,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm sure you'll get that back. Broad statements are inappropriate and are not worthy of this hearing.
I know you're in denial that he had dinner with a Holocaust
I was
denier.
unaware of it. So for you to assume that
that was national news for like a week.
That matters not. Okay. What I'm trying to say, Mr. Chairman, is this hearing needs to stay very cordial and very much on the level. And attacks like this are exactly why our country is going through what we're going through. And
Mr. Chairman, there needs to be a point of order actually in this.
There's no point of order. I called nobody out other than the former president of the United States, Donald Trump.
That is not correct, sir. You referred to Republicans.
Mr. Chairman, there needs to be a point of order, please.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you please admonish the people of this subcommittee and that we are trying to make progress together.
Mr. Chairman, there needs to be a point of order.
Yeah, and I'd like my time back, Mr.
We need a point of order. You will get your time back. We're not running the clock. Okay. If there's no point of order, just continue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll go back to what I was previously saying, is that when Republican colleagues, not all of them, but some Republican colleagues cozy up to neo-Nazis and the Proud Boys and white supremacist groups.
Mr. Chairman, I would like for you to please.
Sir, there's no point of order
we
here.
need a point of order.
I know this is uncomfortable, but I want to get through this. So it's just a paragraph, and we'll be fine. So much for free speech. When some of my Republican colleagues cozy up to neo-Nazis, Proud Boys, and white supremacist groups because they are their voters, and when President Trump hosts Holocaust deniers at Mar-a-Lago, sometimes we hear silence from our friends on the right. When Nazis are holding rallies in the streets, when mass murderers go into synagogues or grocery stores and have Nazi symbols or anti-Semitic dossiers under white nationalism or Christian nationalism, we actually don't hear silence, we hear denial.
Let's talk about what mandates have done. This is the VAERS reporting system and how many deaths were reported to VAERS by year. The blue is all non-COVID vaccine deaths. The red is reports of death related to the COVID-19 vaccine. This is 2021, this is 2022. Here's a comedian, Nick Nemiroff, dead at age 32. He said, "I will not get the third shot. I will not. Pfizer me once, no shame. Pfizer me twice, shame on COVID. Pfizer me 3 times, shame on you. You want me to get a third shot? What's next? A fifth? No, thank you." Then he died, age 32. What about all the athletes? This Shane Warne, get your double vax and get on with it and learn to live with it. Australian cricket legend Shane Warne dies in his sleep.
Well, that was a lot. I want to just first start by saying that we know that the VAERS system should not be used as an unverified way of actually looking at the numbers. And so to continue to bring that up as actually a functional way of looking at the impacts of the pandemic is quite irresponsible. The track record on the House Republican side as it relates to this issue and the pandemic has been quite shameful. We know that COVID vaccines have saved lives, period. Every reputable doctor, this has widely been a peer-reviewed, and we know that they have saved lives, and not just the COVID vaccine, it's other types of vaccines as well. And as we've said earlier, as it was mentioned by the ranking member, the House majority invited RFK, who, as we all know, is a conspiracy theorist and a vaccine denier, as a leading voice around issues around vaccines and the pandemic here to the House. We know that his opinions have already been discredited and they're dangerous, and yet he's somehow someone that is uplifted by the House majority on this issue. But beyond that, we know that RFK has made also racist and anti-Semitic statements, falsely claiming that COVID was deliberately engineered, and I quote, "an ethnic bioweapon targeted to attack Caucasians and black people, and that Chinese and Jewish people are more immune to COVID." So these are the experts that the House majority continue to listen to, and was invited, of course, to appear to a House committee. Now, this isn't the first or most dangerous anti-Semitic trope that we have heard. In January 2022, he also said the vaccine requirements are worse than the persecution of Jews like Anne Frank during the Holocaust, which killed 9 million people, including 6 million Jews. And it shouldn't be surprising after this course, we have heard continuous anti-Semitic comments from the House majority. We have seen this tweet behind us before, and this person, of course, sits on this very committee who just actually gave some very irresponsible facts to our witnesses in the committee as well. But just like RFK and other conspiracy theorists, members of this committee continue to attack vaccines that we have
Mr.
had
Chairman,
in the modern era.
Mr. Chairman.
It's the most significant loss of life we've had in the modern era.
Ms. Rick, please pause for a second.
I'd like to make a point of order and ask the members to be reminded of the rules of decorum, Mr. Chairman.
What rules are those?
The gentleman from California will suspend. The issues we are debating are important ones. Members feel deeply about them. You do. Everyone here does. everyone. While vigorous disagreement is part of the legislative process, members are reminded that we must adhere to established standards of decorum in debate. It is a violation of House rules and the rules of this committee to engage in personalities regarding other members or to question the motives of a colleague. Remarks of that type are not permitted by the rules and are not in keeping with the best traditions of our committee. The chair will enforce these rules of decorum at all times and urges all members to be mindful of their remarks.
Mr. Chairman, what rule did I break?
Does the gentlelady from Georgia have any further? Anything?
No.
Mr. Chairman,
The gentleman may proceed.
Thank you. I'm not sure what rule I broke. I actually didn't call anyone out by name and did not actually disparage anyone. I showed a actual tweet that one of the committee members actually tweeted. It's a public statement in the public record, so this is absolutely not disparaging anyone unless the committee member wants to retract what was said up here. We can read it if we'd like. It says, a tweet, it says, vaccinated employees get a vaccination logo just like the Nazis forced Jewish people to wear a gold star. Vaccine passports and mask mandates create discrimination against unvaxxed people who trust their immune systems to a virus that is 99% survivable. So that's actually a public statement. I'm not sure that that is an attack on anyone. I mean, I disagree with it, but that's what was said. Let me go ahead and continue. We also know that studies have found that COVID death rates were 11% higher in states, and this is an important point, with Republican-controlled governments and 26% higher in areas where voters lean more conservative. In fact, of the 15 U.S. states with the highest age-adjusted death rates, 13 of them were led by Republican governors during the pandemic. And I say this because vaccine hesitancy actually and causing and pushing folks to not get vaccinated actually leads to higher death, and that is a fact. I want to talk about Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who's running for president. He, of course, bragged early on about pushing against vaccine mandates, boasted about his record, but we also know that the latest medical journal just last month attributed over 16,000 needless deaths to his failure to get Floridians vaccinated. They also fell behind the national average throughout 2021 as Governor DeSantis increasingly caved to vaccine skepticism, and the constituents paid that price. According to a report in the New York Times, of the 23,000 Floridians who died, 9,000 were younger than 65, despite the governor's insistence at the time that our entire vulnerable population was basically vaccinated, and I end quote. I want to, Dr. Lynch, is it fair to say that vaccine requirements, along with robust public outreach and access to free vaccinations, result in actually higher vaccination rates?
Absolutely.
And in areas with higher vaccination rates, have we seen lower age-adjusted rates of hospitalization and death due to the pandemic?
Yes.
So it seems fair to conclude that these measures save some number of lives. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is it also true that discouraging vaccines and telling folks to not get vaccinated can actually lead to more death?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield back.
On November 13th, the Supreme Court announced that for the first time in its history, it would implement a code of conduct for the justices. This came after the Roberts Court refused to act on this issue for more than 10 years. After a series of heavily reported disclosures involving several justices, and after this committee favorably reported the Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act, sponsored by Senator Whitehouse. Among other things, the new code addresses the need for justices to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary by avoiding impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. But the court's new code of conduct falls far short of what we would expect from the highest court in the land. First, as this court's statement on the code specifically notes, and I quote, "For the most part, these rules are not new." That's a tell. It was the old way of doing things that brought the reputation of the court to a new low in public opinion. Under the court's previous practices, justices accepted lavish gifts and luxury travel from individuals with business before the court without disclosing these gifts. Without a new, stronger ethics regime, how can the public trust that the justices will indeed refrain from such an impropriety in the future? And there is no enforcement mechanism in the court's announcement to hold justices accountable for violating the code. While the code of conduct prohibits the appearance of impropriety, it allows the justice to individually determine whether their own conduct creates such an appearance in the minds of, quote, reasonable members of the public. This is something the justices have repeatedly failed to do over the last few years. Without an enforcement mechanism, this code of conduct, while a step in a positive direction, cannot restore the public's faith in the court. Because of this, congressional action remains appropriate and necessary.
I don't buy anything you just said. Let's just be real blunt and direct. This is garbage. If you really thought this was a problem, why don't you bring up the Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act that was passed September the 5th, 2023, in this committee to fix the problem you just talked about. This bill is never going to see the light of the day. Go to Senator Schumer and tell him this is urgent. The country's going to collapse if we don't fix this problem. Why hasn't the majority leader brought up the bill that all of y'all voted for to fix this problem? It's never going to be brought up. These subpoenas are never going to see the light of day. I don't know who's driving the train on your side, but you're driving the committee off into a ditch. So this is a joke, a complete joke. Senator Whitehouse, why can't you convince Senator Schumer to bring the bill up so we can amend it, debate, and vote on it on the floor of the United States Senate? So your response to the court you don't like is to try to basically take over how the court works in terms of their internal policing themselves about ethics matters, which all of us on our side feel like really uncomfortable because they're a separate branch of the government. And they did pass some rules that move in the right direction. But you want to pack the court. When you say you don't want to destroy the Roberts Court, I don't believe you. I don't believe a word you're saying.
Before moving to the subpoena authorization, we'll consider the nominees. First is Judge Mustafa Kashubai, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the District of Oregon. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to have an opportunity to speak on the nominees?
Yes, we're going to. Oh, I'm sorry. We already had done that at great length.
Well, I think this deserves some commentary, given the nature of the nominee, and I'd like to ask to speak on the nomination.
Senator, we've debated these two nominees twice.
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to speak on the nomination.
I understand what you'd like to do, but I'm saying that in fairness, we have debated these nominees twice, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you're denying us an opportunity to speak on a nominee?
I mean,
third time, no.
okay, do this.
So
Just
we don't
do
have
it.
a right to speak under the rules?
Under the third time, I'd say no.
So you're just going to make it up?
So yeah.
I'd like to
There's going to be a lot of consequences
I'd like
coming
to
here.
speak too, Mr.
You're going to have a lot of consequences coming if you go down this road.
You better
I've
believe
cautioned
it.
you. I've cautioned a lot of you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Listen to me. I've cautioned a lot of you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, don't we get the opportunity to speak?
We're in a roll call.
So you're telling us to shut up?
Even though multiple
You
members
want
have
us
asked to
to
speak?
shut up? Is that what you're saying?
A lot of people didn't speak on the two nominees before.
We've done.
Would you raise your hand if you did not speak?
I did not have a
Senator Cornyn didn't even have a chance to speak.
Senator Blackburn had a chance to speak.
We've got several folks, Mr. Chairman, who didn't have a chance to speak.
We want to tell you again why these nominees are awful.
Or in Senator Cornyn's case, tell you for the first time. You're just going to sit there and ignore us?
Senator Blackburn, have you spoken on these nominees?
I've not had the
you like
opportunity to
to?
speak. I would like very much to speak on Mr.
Mr. Chairman,
Kassabai.
I urge you to let Senator Blackburn speak.
Senator Cornyn as well. Senator Cornyn hasn't had a chance to speak.
That's correct.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. You can't limit debate without invoking Rule 4. You haven't done that.
We have debated.
We've debated on prior occasions when we didn't have a quorum. That vote didn't count. We've got people who are here now who weren't here then who would like to speak.
Can we speak on the other nominees?
Or is your plan just to end all debate today? Is your plan to end all debate? Do you have an answer? You're going to rely on someone whispering in your ear. What's your plan?
No.
No, we're not. Okay, listen, here's the deal. We worked 7 weeks to try to solution the asylum problems. You boycotted the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you've left us any alternative but to deny the committee a quorum.
Mr.
I think that's something we ought to seriously
I tell
consider.
you what,
Mr. Cotton says the chairman needs to rethink his decision
Yeah,
and let Senator Cornyn and Senator Blackburn speak. That's what Mr. Cotton says. You can mark that down as my vote.
yeah,
And everybody over there who's not willing to look at me or look at Dick Durbin needs to think about it as well. Mr. Kennedy wants to speak as well. Mark Mr. Cotton down saying Mr. Kennedy needs to speak too.
I'm waiting to be heard on the nominee. I've requested several times to be heard on the nominee.
So no, I guess Senator Durbin's not going to allow women to speak either. I thought that was sacrosanct in your party.
The nomination will be favorably reported to the floor. Up next is Judge Yumi Lee, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the...
Mr. Chairman,
who has not been allowed to speak on that nominee?
Mr. Chairman, you just destroyed
Yeah.
one of the most important committees in the United States Senate.
Chair would note,
And you set a precedent,
the chair
which
would
will
note-
be repeated every time one party or the other takes advantage and takes the low road.
Chair will note
It
that
sets a
both nominees
precedent
have
that
been
will then
debated twice.
become the norm.
Kashibai and
Congratulations on destroying the United States Senate Judiciary Committee.
Up next is Judge Yumi Lee, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the Northern
Who
District
has
of
not
California.
spoken on this nominee?
Clerk will call the roll.
Will you raise your hand? Look at all these people have never said a word before you make them vote. Never said a word before you make them vote.
Just going along with it. Just going along with it.
You know,
Mr.
when we were in
Coons
the
said he
majority,
would allow members to speak.
Mr. Chairman, when we were in the majority, we allowed Democrats to speak ad nauseum, at great length. We never did this.
Both of these nominees have had 2 opportunities for speeches by members.
Mr. You have to bring them up again. It wasn't our fault. It's your fault.
Going right along with it.
Mr. Chairman, I hope you're proud of yourself.
Is this guy talking to Dick Durbin, the chairman?
Yeah, you really have. I don't know what drives this, Dick. I really don't.
Mr. Chairman, is it you driving it, or is it your staff
Yeah, is
driving
Joe
it?
Zogby the
Or is
chairman
it
of this
the
committee, or
White
is it
House
you?
driving this? This is completely inappropriate not to let us be heard on these nominations, and you know that.
Your own members have told you to let them speak.
This is a complete disgrace.
Maybe you can share
I see
with
my
us.
colleagues over here who understand what goes around comes around.
I mean, this is so unnecessary to ruin the committee over a political exercise that's going nowhere. Senator Whitehouse.
I would like to, was my name called? I can't hear. Where's that voice?
Was he recognized to speak?
We're on a roll call.
Ma'am? I'd like to speak, please.
We're on a roll call.
I'm waiting to be heard on the nominations. Is this an illegal vote?
So now Joe Zogby is going to dictate to other senators how they're going to vote?
On this vote, the ayes are 10.
The nomination will be favorably reported. We now turn to nominations that have not been debated before the committee, and the committee is open to
Mr. Chairman, I seek to speak on Seth Aframe.
Well, that is the next nominee, and you are recognized.
And I thank you for that.